Okay, just so you know, Louise, oh, there it is. Okay, never mind, we're good.
All right, I can see your slides now.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi, everyone. As Louise said, my name is Halle Cox, and I'm the director of the Kane County Law Library and Self-Help Legal Center. I'm here with my colleague and fellow librarian, Ellen Schmid. Our hope is that by the end of this webinar, you'll be more comfortable and confident interacting with patrons who have legal inquiries. Here's a brief listing of the topics we'll be covering today. We welcome any and all questions, so please submit them to our moderator. We want to make this webinar as helpful and as pertinent to your real-world inquiries as possible, so please feel free to question us at any time. We're happy to jump in. First, I'd like to talk briefly about the patrons themselves who are seeking out our legal assistance. In the legal arena, people who are representing themselves without an attorney are often referred to as pro se litigants. We will get into this a little more later, but currently there's a cultural shift away from legal terminology. So you'll see more and more of those who represent themselves being referred to as self-represented litigants, or sometimes SRL for short. Pro se and self-represented litigant are being used interchangeably, so please know these are the same thing. How many self-represented litigants are there? Surprisingly, this is an incredibly difficult number to pinpoint. Many cases begin with attorneys and end pro se, as well as vice versa. Also, there are shifting thoughts on how attorneys and how best to Also, there are shifting thoughts on how best to count self-represented litigant statistics, whether by case or by individual. Regardless of the method, it is abundantly clear that more and more people are representing themselves in legal matters, most commonly in domestic and family law issues. These are the ones that we see predominantly here in the law library, though we do get quite a few other odd questions as well. Why are there so many people representing themselves? Well, the obvious answer is the cost, that many cannot afford to pay the high cost of hiring an attorney. What is not so obvious, though, is that many others choose not to use an attorney for other reasons, because they do not feel the cost is worth what they are trying to achieve, or they have a distrust of the legal system, or unrealistic expectations of the outcome. Many of this grouping have worked with attorneys and were unsatisfied with the services, so have chosen to represent themselves or representing themselves because attorneys have refused to continue to work with them based on their unrealistic expectations. And this is where we come in. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the best resources for self-represented litigants, I think it's important to take note that the Illinois Supreme Court has recognized the growing distrust by the populace of the legal system, and in turn the vast numbers of people who are representing themselves in legal matters. In 2012, the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on Access to Justice was established to address the needs of the growing self-represented litigant population. The purpose of the commission is to promote, facilitate, and enhance equal access to justice. Moving away from legalese and legal terminology, one of the first initiatives was to move away from legalese towards plain language. Legalese creates a barrier to access to the court system for laymen, making even relatively simple legal matters and documents onerous to those who are not familiar with legal terminology. Standardized forms. One of the steps in moving toward equal access is to develop forms that the average person not familiar with the legal system can actually understand and complete successfully. To fulfill this goal, the Commission created forms subcommittees comprised of law librarians, circuit clerks, legal aid attorneys, and judges who routinely work with the public and charge them with creating such forms within an already established plain language style guide. Once designed, the forms go through a rigorous bout of user testing and public comment before being finalized and made available. All counties and circuits within the state of Illinois have to accept these forms. Prior to this, each county and/or circuit was left to design their own form, which created a lot of confusion for those people with legal matters in multiple counties. self-represented litigant coordinators. Another goal of the Commission is to create best practices throughout the state and reduce duplication of effort among the courts regarding resources for self-represented litigants. To help accomplish this, the Commission appointed in each circuit a self-represented litigant coordinator to establish a statewide network. To support the development of resources and programs to assist self-represented litigants, the Commission awards grant monies within the network. As the appointed self-represented litigant coordinator for Kane County, I was able to secure $10,000 in funding to develop resources to assist the public. Illinois Justice Corps. Illinois Justice Corps is an AmeriCorps program administered through a grant to the Illinois Bar Foundation, an administrative office of the Illinois courts. Full or part-time fellows serve as guides to make the courts more welcoming and less intimidating to people who are navigating the complex and daunting legal system. Kane County has been lucky enough to be awarded such a fellow this year. His name is John, so if you're ever in the courthouse, please feel free to stop by the law library and talk to us and introduce yourself to John. Okay, moving on to referrals. One of the first things we do at the Kane County Law Library and Self-Help Legal Center is try to connect people with an attorney, whether that be through a legal aid agency, a local limited scope program, or a bar association. One of the things I like to share with people when they ask if they have to have an attorney is that no, they don't, but it may be in their best interest for them to at least consult with one. I can cobble together my own plumbing fix, but it probably won't meet code. It will probably be temporary, and more often than not, it may cause bigger problems down the line because I didn't do something correctly. Having or consulting with an attorney is not required, but it more often than not saves time and money in the long run. If you can get someone to use legal aid or a referral service, please do. One thing that is not intuitive is that almost all legal aid agencies only assist people with civil matters. This is based on their federal funding guidelines. Also, potential clients have to meet poverty guidelines, most often 125% of the federal poverty level, which equates to roughly a $25,000 annual income for a family of 3. These agencies are often drastically underfunded and understaffed, but faced with a high volume of clientele. So there may be a long wait time before a telephone call is returned or a person may be assisted. So when you're referring people to these agencies, please share that with them, that they will get a call back or assistance, but it just may not be in the time frame that they would prefer. Also, attorneys cannot take a case if the other side is already being seen by the legal aid agency or firm. This is considered a conflict of interest. Unfortunately, this leaves the second party with very little recourse but to find a private attorney who will take the case at no cost or to litigate the case themselves. As for people with criminal or traffic cases who are seeking assistance, their best bet is to call private criminal attorneys and see if the attorney will work with them on a payment plan or a sliding fee scale. Public defenders are generally not assigned to a case unless there is a possible jail sentence involved. Some legal aid agencies in Illinois include, there's a list up on your screen, Administered Justice, serves primarily Kane and DuPage counties. They are a faith-based organization, but the only qualifications they have are very similar to the federal poverty guidelines. Theirs are a little bit more open, meaning they don't have the guidelines don't have to be met as strictly because they have a mix of both federal funding and private funding. Prairie State Legal Services in Land of Lincoln are 2 of the largest legal aid agencies within the state of Illinois. Between the 2 of them, they cover both the north and the south end of the state. Prairie State Legal Services is the one that covers the north end, generally our area, so that's who we usually refer people to. And just recently, we have a new network in Illinois, the Illinois Armed Forces Legal Aid Network, and that was created to help assist veterans and their families. There are also programs run by different agencies to assist self-represented litigants. The ones mentioned here on the slide are Kane County specific, but your county may have very similar programs. The Lawyer in the Library program here in the Kane County Law Library is by appointment only, and the patron must meet financial qualifications. It is a scheduled one-on-one 45-minute meeting with an attorney. The attorney does not represent the patron, but will give them guidance and perform document review. This program, we are moving towards taking it into the public sector. We are looking for partners in public libraries that we can bring this program to. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. We will try to find attorneys in your area and set up times that you think would be best for your patrons, or if you have a lot of legal questions, you know, what types of questions you're getting, and we're more than welcome to help design a custom program for you.
Halle, it's Louise. I've got a question. Did you say that the legal aid agencies only help with civil cases and not criminal?
Correct. Due to their federal funding, the legal aid agencies are limited to only assisting with civil matters. So people that have civil matters either need to rely on public defenders that may be appointed by the court, or private attorneys.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Keep the questions coming. We're happy to answer anything you have.
Okay.
The divorce and parentage form help here in the Kane County Law Library, again, is a walk-in service held between 11 a.m. and noon on Thursday mornings. In this program, family law attorneys donate their time to answer quick family law questions for the general public. Lawyer in the Lobby program is actually run by the Kane County Bar Association, and we assist with that. We have a librarian on hand with a laptop to help guide the pro se patrons to whatever the attorney has told them to find. It is a walk-in service at the civil courthouse on Friday mornings. It's actually designed to only assist those people who are representing themselves in that court that morning. The Kane County Bar Association also has an Ask a Lawyer program, and in this one, people may call into a phone bank of volunteering attorneys on the second Saturday of the month between 9 a.m. and noon to discuss their legal issues. And just so you know, everything in this slide, all the websites and exact information is contained in one of our handouts. And law libraries, need I say more? Ellen's going to talk a little bit about law libraries and what we can do for you.
Many law libraries have their own website pointing to information for self-represented litigants. Today we're going to use our own law library website to show the types of information you may be able to find. And if you are in Kane County, please feel free to refer patrons to us and to our site, or we would love if you would like to link to our site. We update it constantly, and we feel we have an accurate representation of typical answers and resources to address the types of questions we are most often asked by patrons, whether they are pro se or in the legal profession. We've divided our website into portals. So as you can see here, we have the I Am Representing Myself portal. We also have I Am a Legal Professional. And then we have quick links in I Want To, and those are the kind of ready reference questions when people are coming in and they want to know where to go, where the courtroom might be, things of that nature. We're gonna use I Am Representing Myself for the next part of the presentation, where Halle is going to speak about how you can find an attorney.
Okay, finding an attorney. As court representatives, we cannot recommend anybody in private business. So what we do, we need to remain neutral. So what we do is guide people to our website here, and almost all the time we guide people from this website into the Bar Association lawyer referral. But just so you know, all the legal aid agencies, all the programs we have are also listed here. But if you're not in Kane County, almost every bar association has a find a lawyer service of some sort, either via their website or call-in. So if anybody's looking for attorneys in their particular county, also something else to remember, that most attorneys practice in multiple counties. So if you live in, Kendall County or DuPage County, you can still access our website, find an attorney, and on their listings, they most commonly will mention which other counties they practice in. We also tell people to ask their family and friends about what attorneys they've used. Family and friends are great referral sources, whether they like the attorney, whether they didn't like the attorney. Even if the attorney is practicing a different area of law, or your friend or family member used them for a different area of law than what you're seeking, still feel free to give that attorney a call, and that attorney would probably most likely give a very reputable reference to an attorney that does handle the type of law that you're looking for. Another one of our favorite resources, the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission. On this site, there is a lawyer search, so you can verify your attorney's information. You can see whether they're still licensed to practice in Illinois, because they are required to register. This Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission is the oversight for the legal profession in Illinois. So if anybody has any complaints about an attorney, this is where you will find those complaints listed. So if you're thinking of hiring, attorney Bob Smith, you can look up Bob Smith on this site, and it will tell you whether he's registered in the state of Illinois, what all of his contact information is, if he's had any complaints, what they were, and what the disposition of them was, whether they were considered founded or whether they were considered unfounded after investigation. Also, we also run across a lot of patrons that want to file complaints against their attorneys, and this website is where we guide them to, because as you can see on the left-hand side, there's a how to submit a request for investigation. So people can certainly fill this out if they have a complaint against their attorney or somebody else in the legal arena. Windows here. Okay, going on to legal information versus legal advice. And this is something that is constantly asked of us, and it's a fine line. It definitely is. If finding an attorney is not an option for someone, or if they want to conduct their own legal research to be better informed legal consumer, do not panic. If you stopped into the Kane County Law Library and Self-Help Legal Center on any given day, what you will hear us say over and over again is, I'm not an attorney, I'm a librarian. Though I cannot help you with your specific case, I can guide you to resources that will help you learn more about the legal process. There's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion over what actually is legal advice versus legal information. Unfortunately, this uncertainty leads to most staff erring on the side of caution, creating more of a dilemma and a sense of alienation for the self-represented litigant. As noted on the slide, legal information is general factual information about the law or legal process intended to help a court patron navigate the court system. Legal advice is guidance regarding a court patron's legal rights and obligations in light of their unique facts and circumstances. And basically the golden rule of legal advice is, do not say to one party what you would not say to another. To help clarify and to ensure that self-represented litigants are given as much support as legally possible, the Illinois Supreme Court Access to Justice Commission created a safe harbor policy defining what is considered legal advice versus what is legal information, and the lengths and limits to which forward-facing staff may go to assist self-represented litigants. In furtherance of this policy, a guide was developed for quick reference by frontline staff, including sample scenarios and scripts. This is an excellent resource and guide for anyone who deals with addressing legal questions by the public. We've provided links to these documents and others that will be available after this presentation. This guide includes a quick reference chart of I can versus I cannot scenarios for frontline staff. For instance, I can explain how to find laws that a patron could use in their case, but I cannot tell a patron which laws they should rely on for their case. One of the main rules of thumb is that if it is a procedural question, one in which you would answer the same regardless of who was in front of you, you are safe to assist. If it is a question specific to the particulars of the case, that is legal advice, and you may then mention that the person would need to consult an attorney, conduct further research, or take their best guess. We're now moving on to print and online resources. Self-represented litigants are no different than the average library patron when it comes to using print versus online resources. Some patrons are very uncomfortable navigating and searching online resources while others insist that it's all they will use. Why use print for self-represented litigants? I personally like to initially use print resources with self-represented litigants. Searching indices and tables of contents allows the patron to become more familiar with legal terms and phrases that may be applicable to their case. I can't tell you how many times people have wanted to do research on squashing a warrant. That is a vegetable, not a legal term. They need to quash the warrant. If they had used squashed in an online search, chances are they would have not had much success. Locating information in print also allows the layperson to see how their legal issue fits into the bigger legal picture and how they may need to consider other things around their topic and how other laws may play into or affect what they are trying to do. In terms of actual print holdings for non-law libraries, there are a few I would highly recommend keeping around, but there really is no reason to duplicate what may already be available at your local law library, either at the county or university level. As you are probably aware, like medical materials, legal materials are highly specialized, are horribly expensive, and change constantly. Let the local law library act as your go-to source for the majority of your legal collection. Reach out and establish a relationship with your local law library. It's a great partnership, and we're fun. I happen to substitute in at several of the local public library reference desks, and I can't tell you how often I see my law library regulars also using the public library. We often refer people to their local public libraries if they still need resources beyond our open hours or if they need access to resources closer to their home. As for the core legal titles, Illinois compiled statutes are all the laws of the state of Illinois. I would bet money every one of you already have this on your shelf. So the information is available online. It is not nearly as user-friendly as the print version. I would also hazard that you all already have a copy or two of Black's Law Dictionary. It's another indispensable resource when working with self-represented litigants who so often ask for definitions of legal terms. NOLA was a publisher that specializes in print legal materials for lay people. These resources are written in plain English, usually have sample documents, and have tons of tips and hints for those doing their own legal work. Their publications are very popular, and you can't go wrong having them on your shelves. The Illinois Institute for Continuing Legal Education, or ICLES, as they are often referred to, are great, quick, one-stop shopping on specific areas of the law. They are Illinois-specific, written by attorneys, and include the law, explanations of the law, sample documents, and references to other pertinent materials. Though initially designed for attorneys, we found them to be extraordinarily helpful for the layperson as well. Prince's Dictionary of Legal Abbreviations is a resource of which few are aware, but for those unfamiliar with legal terminology and abbreviations, it can prove invaluable. And last, but certainly not least, always keep a stash of pamphlets and or business cards from your local courthouse or law library and pass them out with abandon and call us at your every whim. Your patrons are our patrons, and we are more than happy to help in any way we can. I'm now going to pass this off to Ellen to talk a little bit about robust online legal resources.
Hi there. As Halle said, there are many good reasons to use text when helping patrons with legal questions. However, online resources are not only robust, but often they are more current. Just remember, as with any website, watch who created the website and the date on which it was last updated. Laws can change very quickly, so you want to be sure that you are in the right resource in talking about the most current of laws. You also want to make sure people are looking at Illinois law and not applying laws from other states. A few weeks ago, a patron came in with divorce paperwork they had prepared themselves. Now, normally this is okay. Many people do it themselves, but the only problem is this person picked online legal paperwork from a company in Texas. The judge would not accept the paperwork, and the patron was out of the money they paid for the forms. They had to start over from scratch. So what they should have used, and what we consider to be the granddaddy of all online resources in the state of Illinois, is ILAO, or Illinois Legal Aid Online. And as luck would have it, today the website is down for maintenance. So I'm going to try one last time to see if it's come back up, but I feel like it has not. So we're going to need to talk about it without any screen captures. I apologize that it isn't working. It's rare. It's almost never down, and if it is, it's only down for a few minutes. So the fact that it's down for maintenance today is very unfortunate. But it is fairly intuitive to use. So please be sure to visit it when it is back up. There are many good things about it. It is a nonprofit resource that partners with the Illinois Supreme Court on access to justice and the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts. It's won many awards, and it's supported by many agencies. It's an excellent resource and one we are always comfortable recommending. It is maintained by Illinois attorneys and is a website you can trust for the most up-to-date information on Illinois laws and forms. There are also lots of videos to support it and pathways to help a self-represented litigant from start to finish when they have a legal problem. Illinois Legal Aid Online takes people from beginning to end of a process. It will even ask a series of questions and create the forms for the patron. So if you've ever used, TurboTax or the FAFSA or something like that, it will populate forms based on what your answers are to certain questions. It is very strong in family law, landlord-tenant, expungements, small claims, and it is very often the first place that we refer people who come into the law library. And as I said, the website and forums can be translated into Spanish, which is incredibly helpful for many. This next link should work. They are standardized state court forms. This is also revolutionary. These fillable forms with helpful instructions can be used as standalones or as part of a larger legal process. The forms are written in plain language and are created as part of the Illinois Supreme Court Access to Justice Initiative and must be accepted by all Illinois courts if the patrons have filled them out correctly. Prior to the creation of these forms, each county and circuit created their own forms, which could be very confusing for people and for librarians and even attorneys who had legal issues in multiple counties. I'm going to just show you here, especially since I couldn't show you Illinois Legal Aid, but if you had a patron come into your library who was asking for divorce paperwork, you could lead them to this site, and when you click on divorce, you can see there's many links with helpful information on getting started with dissolution of marriage. That's the other terminology for divorce. It's broken out for divorce with children, and also if you scroll down, there is a component for divorce without children. So there are instructions, petitions, summonses. Many people need something called a parenting plan. This is a 7-page document that you can fill in, and you're directed for how to fill in the blanks by the instructions along the side. Lots of times forms intimidate people, but if you, while you can't tell them what to fill in the blanks, many times I just slow them down and read the instructions to them, and it makes all the difference in the world. So if someone needed a parenting plan, they could come along, fill this out, print it off, and they would have this for the judge. Next, I wanted to talk about the circuit clerk's office. Every county will have their own circuit clerk. I'm going to point to the one here in Kane. So here's our Kane County Circuit Clerk's office. These websites and offices are great resources for local court forms, local procedures, fee schedules you can see along the top. Lots of times people want to do a legal process, but they don't realize how much of a fee might be attached to it, and even to start the process, you need to pay the money up front. So this is an important thing for people to know. You may be able to look up local court cases online, as many times patrons are not sure when their next court case is, or they've lost their paperwork. They don't know what courtroom they're supposed to be in. So if you come down here under electronic services for the Kane County Circuit Clerk, you can search court records. You can do a smart search. And here you could enter last name, first name, or your court record number, and all of your information should come up. So we use this every day as well to help people and to direct them of where they're supposed to be. The next resource that we use quite frequently is the Illinois Attorney General's office. This is a fabulous resource when looking for consumer protection issues. We refer people to this website for lemon law problems. Lemon laws, as probably most of you know, are inferior products or products sold that did not meet the stated standards. It's also a terrific resource for anyone having problems with identity theft. There's an identity theft hotline right here, and all the information. We field lots of calls from people who are experiencing identity theft and they don't know where to turn. So the Illinois Attorney General's office will answer their questions, and they can call if they feel they've been a victim and report what's going on. Next on our list is the Illinois Guardianship and Advocacy Commission. On this website, we get requests from people who need a power of attorney, a living will, and guardianship forms, aside from the statutory forms actually found within the body of the law. This commission has many of these forms available on their website. They're also called advanced directives. So when you're on this website, you're going to come up to advanced directives, and you can see that you can find the forms available for that. You can find out how to gain guardianship of a person, and oftentimes people are looking for probate forms. So this is an excellent resource for those things. We also wanted to point out Google Scholar. This is Google's legal search engine. It weeds out all the extraneous hits you would get with a general Google search. It's a great resource for the layman wanting to do general research. You can search this by legal citation, party names, or topic. We've got a few bookmarked here. If we wanted to look up the citation, Terry versus Ohio, it will pop up and it will give you the full case. So for instance, there it is. You can also search by search and seizure. You can search by topic. Let me go back. So if we type in search and seizure, you will get case law coming up underneath that topic. And state court websites. We use this every day too. It's a great resource if people ask for laws outside of Illinois. But if people want online access to the laws within Illinois, you're going to point them to the Illinois General Assembly website. That is our state court, part of our state court website. This is where you are going to find the laws of Illinois, which are called the Illinois Compiled Statutes. You can also see bills and resolutions, current and past. You can research public acts. You can read the Illinois Constitution here. Great, great resource, one that you want to know about. Also, we have Legal Information Institute hosted by Cornell. Cornell maintains this website. They want to make a non-for-profit group that makes the law easy to understand and to read. So they put this website together. They also have a legal dictionary called WEX on this website. It's a great website for federal laws, for U.S. codes, also how you can do research in other states. It's very easy to navigate. We point students to this website. Public libraries may do this also. It's great for starting or doing a school project. I think that's all for the online resources. Next, we have e-filing. I don't know how many of you out there are familiar with this. It's fairly new. The definition of it is to submit completed paperwork to the circuit clerk electronically. So once you've helped a patron or pointed a patron toward the forms they'll need to complete a legal process, there's our new procedures in place as of January 1st of this year, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So on January 1st, the Illinois Supreme Court mandated that all civil cases in the Illinois Supreme, Appellate, and Circuit Courts, with the exception of wills, will be filed using an online e-filing system. What this means is that instead of filing paper forms with the court, which was the previous practice, people will now need to send documents from a computer. And then what types of cases are we talking about when we say civil? A civil case is any case which is not a misdemeanor or criminal case. So really common examples of civil cases are divorces, family matters such as child support or allocation of parental responsibility. Many of you may know that as the term custody, small claims, landlord-tenant, things of that nature. So when the Supreme Court made this ruling, our computer use statistics here in the law library went up by triple digits. If you work in a public library, you can compare this scenario with the e-book downloading revolution. Our self-represented litigants were surprised to find that they now had an extra layer to navigate once they prepared their court documents. In the past, they delivered these court documents to the circuit clerk's office, but now they need to turn their paperwork into a PDF, and they need to create an account with a third-party vendor in order to communicate to the courts about their case. So we've linked to approved Efile Vendors here. And then here's just a handy-dandy guide when you're trying to explain to patrons that they may need to use one of these. They're called EFSPs, which are Electric Filing Service Providers. There are some free ones within the state. Here in Kane, we use Odyssey eFile Illinois. If any of you out there have patrons who have questions about these, please direct them to us. We use it every day with patrons. So we're happy to tell you what we know about it. I know another common free one is I2File, which I understand DuPage uses. We have no experience with FileTime or InfoTrack, although this comparison chart does say that they're free to patrons. We don't suggest that patrons use the other products down here. I think they're probably best used with attorneys. They have bigger bells and whistles on them. So it's more than what a typical self-represented litigant might need just to get through, you know, like one legal activity within the court system. So I'm going to show you right now Odyssey Efile Illinois. So we have this up on 3 of our computers in the law library at all times. We have 3 computers that are designated for e-filers. Again, feel free to send people to us if you see them in your library and they need to e-file and they need a scanner. We have binders set up that would walk them start to finish through the process. And then if you're referring people to us, please know that we're referring people back to you because we are closed on Saturdays and Sundays, and we close at 4:30. But oftentimes people are running in and they must e-file their documents. If they don't have a scanner at home, they're going to have to come to a library or Kinko's or someplace where they can find a scanner, or they need to download a PDF reader to their phone, but they must turn their court documents into electronic documents in order to file with the courts. Some other things we like to tell people, just as helpful tips, when they start with Efile Illinois and they click on register, you can see here's where they would start, but they need to have some things with them in order to continue the process. The things that they must have to begin are a credit card, a debit card, or an e-check. Even if their case doesn't require payment, the e-file vendor requires that they have a payment account on file. So there's no getting past that. They must be able to put in account information. They will also need an email account that is active and that they can log into remotely, because they will get an activation request proving it's them when they register for an e-file account. The other thing they're going to need is a street address. The P.O. box will not work. So these are just nice things, helpful things you can tell them when they come in if they should mention this to you. I think that it's a scary process and it doesn't really need to be, but it is a big change in our state. So these things will help them in the long run. It can also save them a lot of time down the road because they won't be able to complete the process without them. So let me go back to my PowerPoint. The equipment you're going to need, if you are going to help patrons with this, is you'll need, of course, a public access computer. You'll need a scanner. You're going to need a variety of browsers. I don't know why this is, but here in the library, we cannot use Internet Explorer with Odyssey Efile Illinois. It just will not work. So we've had to switch everything up to Chrome, especially on the 3 computers that we have designated to help our e-filers. But this is the exact opposite of what we hear from others who go home and they say this Chrome browser won't work and they need Internet Explorer. So just be aware that if someone calls you over and they can't get their forms to load or they can't complete the process, lots of times we just have them switch browsers. So you might want to have a variety of browsers available to your patrons if you don't already. We also recommend when they're finished with the process that they delete their scans from the desktop or wherever your scans go, but all their personal information is sitting there in their court records. So we recommend to everyone who comes in and uses our computers, even though they're wiped clean every night, they're not wiped clean during the day. So we recommend that they at least delete their files so another party can't come along and see their personal information. And then last but not least, if you find someone really struggling with e-filing or afraid to do it, they may actually be eligible for an exemption form from filing electronically. Here's what the form looks like. It's back in that standardized state forms that we talked about a little while ago. You can see it's right here, exemption from e-filing for good cause. There's also a component in Spanish. What we do here is we can never recommend to anyone that they can file an exemption, even if they've mentioned to us they don't have a computer or that English isn't their first language. But we can say, you might want to take a look at this form. And then we show them the form. There are 4 reasons that someone may be able to be exempt from e-filing. So again, don't recommend that they choose one or another. We just say, please read these, and if you find any one of these items to be true, then you can fill out this form and give it to the circuit clerk with your paper with your paperwork for your court case. And then from that point forward, if it's accepted, they'll be able to file the old-fashioned way without having to use the e-filing system. Let's see. Okay, that's all we have for you today. We'll talk about our handouts in a little bit, but we want you to know we're open to any questions you may have, and that we are here to help even after this presentation. So if you think of something, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, please reach out to Halle or I. We would love to help. We would love to help your patrons. So we are here as a resource. So we'll open it up to questions. Let me put on our slide of how to contact us. Email, phone, whatever you like. Louise, I think that's about all we have for now.
All right, thank you both so much, Halle and Ellen. That was a lot of information. It's terrific. I do have a bunch of questions that I was just kind of saving. So let me get started. And just a reminder, we've got plenty of time. So if you have questions, please type those in now, and we can get to as many as possible. So the first question I have from one of our participants are, do you have any thoughts on the Gale Legal Forms Library database? Do you know if the forms are kept up to date?
I personally, having worked at the public libraries, have played a little bit with that database. I honestly don't like it. I would guide people to the standardized state court forms or Illinois Legal Aid Online before I would guide them to that database. 100% that the standardized state court forms and the LAO forms will be accepted by the courts. Once you start getting outside court-created forms, it gets really dicey as to whether the judges are going to accept them or not. And to be honest, I don't find them nearly as exacting as the court-created forms. They're a lot broader and don't hit upon as many topics or specifics that the court-made forms do hit upon, that the judges want to see.
Or have all, it might be a great place to go if you're just missing one form. And we have form encyclopedias here, but if someone couldn't come in and they didn't want to look at the encyclopedias, they could look in there to see if they could find maybe a hard-to-get form, but generally the process of what you're trying to do isn't as robust as Illinois Legal Aid Online, where you would be able to complete a process start to finish.
Okay, that's helpful.
Something that's not intuitive is how many forms it takes to complete a divorce or to complete what you and I as lay people would consider a simple matter. There are a ton of forms involved in the process that the general public don't realize. So they come in, they ask for one form, they go into the court, and the court's like, well, where are these 7 other forms you need to do this? You know, and that's what Illinois Legal Aid Online and what the standardized state court forms do, is show you all those forms. Those Gale products and other online products have a tendency just to show you one isolated form. And you don't have that knowledge then that you need these 7 other forms to complete the actual process. Does that make any sense, I hope?
Hope so. If that person would like to follow up, you know, please do. All right. Next question. Do all Illinois counties have a legal library and self-help center?
No, they don't. Of the 102 counties in Illinois, I would say at this point, there may be 15 that have established law libraries. And as for self-help legal centers, I'm seeing more and more partnerships between courts and public libraries, where the public libraries are taking over as their self-help legal center for the county, versus the county creating their own law library. And just for edification, county law libraries are statutorily created through a county board of approval or vote. So in order for each county, for each county to have a law library, it has to go through, the county board has to vote on and establish one. More information than you needed, but but there were enough of us that to feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'll give you a listing at the end. That's one of our handouts of local libraries and self-help legal centers. So feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'll get you to where you need to be.
Okay. And that kind of segues into my next question. You had talked about partnering with local libraries to offer consultations with lawyers. It sounded like you have that in Kane County, but do you know if that's available elsewhere?
Actually, we have yet to establish it in Kane County. I'm currently talking to St. Charles Public Library and Batavia Public Library about it, and they're very open to the idea. We're just looking at the logistics of it, how many legal questions they get, what types of legal questions, when would be the best time to have an attorney present, how often. So we're just sort of working out the logistics at this point, but I would love to see it expand even farther than that. I think Gail Borden might have they run a program through their library where they have attorneys come in. I'm pretty sure Cook County does as well, but they have not necessarily partnered with the law libraries. They've just created their own programs.
Okay.
But,
all right. Next question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, give us a call if you're interested in partnering with us on that type of program.
Okay. All right. Do you have any additional suggestions for public libraries in areas where there are no law libraries nearby?
It would really depend. Call the law library. It would be so dependent on what types of questions you're getting, where we would refer you. That Illinois Legal Aid Online is, I cannot speak highly enough of that. It is just a phenomenal online product if you're in a more rural area for the pro se litigants. Tons of videos, which the litigants really seem to like, and it makes them feel more comfortable with the process. Bar associations, almost every county will have their own bar association, no matter how large or small. You can definitely call them for resources. Universities, we work with Northern Illinois University a lot because it's the closest. We work with DePaul, Chicago, Kent. You know, call any of the universities. In Southern Illinois, there's the Illinois Supreme Court Law Library. They work with the public a lot. So it's really just going to be very dependent. If that individual, whoever asked that question, wants to give us a call and share with us maybe a little bit more of what types of information they're looking for, we're more than happy to get them hooked up with the correct resources.
All right, thanks. I'm almost finished with questions, so just kind of I know Halle and Ellen have a few more things to show, but I just want to put it out there, kind of a last call for questions. What I have left is just a few comments. So actually, we have a participant from Gail Borden on the webinar, and they said they do not have attorneys in the library there. So I don't know, maybe it's another library in the area.
Yeah. I thought I'd seen a press release on it. That was my mistake. I'm sorry. We'd love to partner with you, though. And actually, just, you know, as a little side tidbit, our Illinois Justice Corps fellow, John, just moved into the state, and he's one of your patrons, and he cannot speak highly enough of you, Gail Borden. He loves you guys.
All right, and then just you have a shout out from St. Charles Public Library that they love you. So I just wanted to share that.
Shouting back.
All right, that's all the questions I have for right now.
Okay, great. Again, we are totally open. Call us anytime. If you have patrons that have questions, feel free to refer the patrons to us or give us a call while the patron's standing in front of you. We're happy to do whatever it takes to get those self-represented litigants the information they need and to make you feel more comfortable in your interactions with them. Ellen has up right now, we've created handouts for each of the general areas within Rails of legal aid resources and self-help centers.
So you should be able to find your county. It's alphabetical. And if we've missed any, we can add them, but we feel like it's pretty complete. Here's Kane County, for instance, but many of the things we said in our presentation, we have links and information to, you know, like the legal aid agencies, Prairie State, Administered Justice, but we've done the same for each of the counties. We also wanted to point out we've included a citation handout. This might help you if a patron walks in and they have, you know, a statute, legal citation, or case law. This will give you a better idea of what kind of resources they need. These are not necessarily for everyone to read. I know when I first got to the law library, I couldn't read them. So again, you can always ask us, or this is just a little cheat sheet to give you an idea of what these numbers mean. We also wanted to show people our legal resources brochure. Halle talked about a grant we received, so we used some of that money to prepare this. We've tried to hit upon the most crucial things that people ask and need to be directed toward. So it's also on our website if you want to check it out, or feel free to take any of the information from it. Then we linked to those guides that came up with the legal advice versus legal information. These are really important guides. I keep them next to my desk at all times, so you might want to read through them, but here is the guide on what is legal information. And then here is the chart we were talking about, and then the questions. So I can and I cannot. Sometimes if you keep these in the back of your mind, it helps when people are asking a question. So your first inclination isn't to be afraid to answer it. Again, if you you can explain how to find rules and statutes that a person could use to prepare a case, but you cannot tell a court patron what they should ask. Even if you think you know, or even if you've been through a similar situation, it's the same ideals behind a reference interview. You can't tell people the answer. You have to lead them to an answer that might answer their question, but you can't say yay or nay, this is the answer. And then, so we have the guide there, and then we have the safe harbor policy. So these are just good things to know. They make you feel reassured when you're talking to patrons. So we really can't recommend these resources enough to make you feel comfortable in helping the people who you're serving.
That's
I think
pretty
that's
much
all
all
we
we
have.
have. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate being able to speak with you, and I hope this helps at least a little bit. Again, please reach out to us. We are more than willing to help. And if you ever want to stop by, we would love that. Give a little tour. Or if you want us to stop by your libraries, we often do that anyway. But,
and if you have ideas for us, we always want to learn as well. We want to do the best we can for our patrons. So.
Okay, I think that's all we have, Louise.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Halle and Ellen. I mean, this was just a wealth of information. I'm seeing messages from participants about saying how helpful this was, and many thanks. So thank you both for your time today and pulling this all together. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for everyone who attended.
Yeah. Yep, and thank you all for joining us. We did have permission to record today. I'm just going to take some time to process that, and we'll post it on the Rails website, and I'll send everyone an email when that's ready to view, and we'll put a copy of the handouts and the slides with that as well. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, unless Halle or Ellen, do you have any last things to say?
Not at the moment.
Nope. I think we're good.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Louise.
Bye.
Bye.